Hello, good day. This is Stuart, host of Reanimated Podcast. I'm doing all these words out of order. It's episode 194. I'm here with H.A. Conrad, who is coming at us from Brooklyn, America. Hello, H.A.
Hello.
Yes, hi.
Hello.
We are going to be talking today about the next 3 episodes of The Walking Dead Season 8. If you're following along in this fun little retrospective, these are going to be episodes 11, 12, and 13. Dead or Alive or The Key and Do Not Send Us Astray. And they all were solidly in the 6 million audience numbers, which is pretty bad for The Walking Dead Prime. But we're going to get there after a little bit of news. There's very little news, actually, for some reason. Apparently, mid-January is not the time for zombie news. Maybe it's because we're all so terrified about our government just not working and collapsing. But enough about that. Because in Nevada, a man was ordered by a judge to apologize to a young group of zombies. H.A., do you have the rest of the details on this piece?
Yeah, so apparently this group of teenagers were in full theater makeup because they were basically doing like a marketing / whatever campaign for like some kind of thriller revival or something like that. And this man really took it very seriously and, basically attacked them. So that's fun. Was this in Nevada or Utah?
I could have sworn it was Nevada. Park City, Utah is the date line, but I thought it said Nevada man somewhere.
No, because he was in Nevada. Yes, so he was a Nevada man, but he was in Park City when he did this. And I have to say, like, this was like back in September, and these are like these are kids. So
they're 13 to 16-year-olds, but he was also with his 16-year-old daughter, who apparently he described as hysterical.
Yeah, and he thought, so he tried to shove them downstairs, and he
punched one of them.
Yeah, and he tried to kick one, and this is the thing. He said that he thought they were attacking them, and he was like, he thought they were on drugs, and I'm just like, okay, man, it doesn't take much to, for them to just say, hey, we're part of this thing. Like, I can't imagine. I mean, maybe they were really into their roles, but I just don't think that it takes more than a couple of minutes of dialogue to understand that they're doing this promotional thing. So I'm glad that he had to apologize to them because they are children. He says that he thought that the assault charges were overblown, but I think if you hit them and tried to throw them down the stairs, probably not.
Which he denied.
And he said that it wasn't, I don't know. In any case, this was like a dance theater, and they had directed these kids that were dressed up like this to circulate among patrons, and they apparently were given training to say that, if people were weird about it, to get away from it. So I don't think that they would have engaged them. I think it would have been an easy situation to avoid or to clear up with minimal issue. And just to this guy is 6'2" and 230 pounds. So I don't know.
He used that as his defense, though. He's a big guy. Yeah. He's like, look, if I had really been trying to hurt these kids, they would have been really hurt.
Right. Well,
that's your defense. It's
anyway,
I'm a lethal weapon, buddy.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's something going on here, and I don't know that they would have lied about it. So, anyway, just a word to the wise: if you're gonna dress up as zombies, or if your kids are gonna dress up as zombies to promote this theater dance thing, or any kind of thing, make sure that they can talk about what they're doing coherently and to avoid interactions with people like this. I guess
they should all have a living chaperone.
Perhaps an adult chaperone to basically be
an interpreter. Yeah.
Right. Anyway, I just thought, I think that there's something missing from here, and I suspect he did overreact. I'm obviously, biased towards zombies. So...
HA is pro-zombie. It's just
What do you think? I mean, I just think...
Yeah, I mean, without being there, it's just speculation. Who knows? But the guy got off pretty light for having beaten up a bunch of kids. He just has to apologize, do 25 hours of community service. And, at first he'd been charged with child abuse, several counts of it, and it's been brought down since there. So bottom line is, hey, maybe just don't have like violence be your primary reaction to
Response.
things,
Yeah.
and be nice to zombies. Maybe
Yeah.
that's not actually the lesson we want to tell people, but zombies aren't real, folks. So guess what? You can be nice to zombies because they're just people dressed up.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. So, and that's all we have in the way of this kind of news today. But you had some shows you wanted to chat with me about.
Yeah, I wanna jaw at you for a bit because, well, one of these things we've already established that you haven't seen it, but apparently it's this craze sweeping the nation, and that's kind of why I watched it. Is I kept seeing people in my social media and headlines of articles talking about the memes surrounding this movie that came out on Netflix over the holidays. It's been dubbed like the unlikely holiday movie of the year or something, and it's Bird Box with Sandra Bullock. It's I mean, it is a little bit in our wheelhouse for this podcast because it is basically a post-apocalyptic film
Okay.
in a very restrictive setting. I'm not going to spoil it for you, HA, but it was
Well, we know my restrictions in terms of watching this kind of thing. I saw from the trailers and everything like this. I don't think that this is something that my husband would enjoy watching, so I'm going to have to find time on my own
yes.
to watch it. And as we know, I have been unsuccessful in even watching the first half of season 9 of The Walking Dead. So,
Even on the train, isn't that your usual Walking Dead viewing
It
location?
is, but I have to tell you, of late, people have been extraordinarily nosy and weird, and so it depends on the train that I get on. If I can get into a corner where nobody can see my screen, that is the best way, and I can actually watch it on the train. But people have been, I don't know, 2019 has just brought a lot of nosiness into viewing things, and so I was trying to watch something. Actually, I was watching some of the episodes that we're going to talk about today. And this woman yelled at me because, like, she had her child with her, but I was nowhere. I mean, her child could not see my screen, but she could because she was taller, I guess. But anyway, so that's the kind of like, it's a little bit more difficult than it used to be in trying to watch stuff like this on the train. I guess some people just don't. I guess some people just don't care, but you know, I tend to just kind of keep my business to myself when I'm on the train, so I don't even look at what other people are doing in terms of that stuff. So I just don't know why it's such a. It seems to be a bigger issue, and I'm not the only one who has noticed this. There's been like a multitude of articles about this online, to the point. Well, not necessarily about people seeing what people are watching, but a lot of nosiness in terms of like emails and texting and things like that. So we actually got just a bit of a public service announcement to keep our screens sort of private if we're looking at work emails and that kind of thing. Not that I would do that anyway.
At your job?
Yeah.
Okay.
And apparently we're not the only ones. So like that's something that's been going on, and it's been a thing. It just seems to be increased. Somehow people don't think that that's a problem. I find it to be a little bit rude, but just me. So anyway, no, I have not.
The short story there is you still have not seen any of season 9 of The Walking Dead.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And
you're gonna.
AJ,
I can feel you judging me. I can feel it.
I feel like I've been asking you if you've watched it since before Thanksgiving. So yeah, the judgment is real.
It's harsh. It's real.
You're gonna have to get to work, my friend, because
I will.
Our review is coming up. I mean, you can watch it just one time instead of twice, like we've watched every other episode of Walking Dead at least twice.
True.
And in the case of season 8, that is its own punishment. So,
it's
but
such a
I can tell you
punishment.
that season 9 it's not a punishment to watch those a couple of times. I think I look forward to watching those again. So, I mean,
Okay.
you've
Well,
heard
I will get my acting gear and I will do it.
Yeah. Okay.
And I do have, since I do have a trip coming up, I will probably do it that way.
Yeah.
So
good.
a solo trip.
Yeah.
So.
Just don't let the kids look over your shoulder, and you'll be fine.
Yep.
However, Bird Box.
Yes.
I'm sure some of our loyal listeners have seen it, but my experience was, and I'm not talking about plot, just that I feel like I wanted to pause it a lot of times because it was really difficult for me to watch.
Like painful, like uncomfortable, or like awful because you have children.
Yes,
or...
it's the children element. And I don't know that that's just because I have children, but I think it was tough for me to watch because of the kids in this, and the way that the film is made does not really spare the children the experience. A lot of horror like has kids there as a motivator or as like a, an element to make you uncomfortable. But for the most part, kids are not being tortured and that's not what's happening here. But they're a little more involved in the horror in a way that I don't feel like I've seen a lot, and it made me very uncomfortable, but I did struggle through, and it's an entertaining film. So I would recommend that you see it. But
so did you watch this solo or did you watch this with your wife?
No,
okay.
No, we don't do horror. Sometimes if I'm prepping for this show, I'll be like, all right, I have to watch like 8 episodes of Walking Dead. She'll be like, oh my God. Okay, I'll do one with you because I love you, but that's it. And she'll second screen it too. So she'll mostly be doing social media
Other
or something.
stuff, yeah.
And every so often she'll look up and be like, I can't believe you still watch this show, or I can't believe that, it's usually some sort of incredulity about something, either me or the show itself.
Yes, we have similar experiences. So, yep. Okay. And all right, like I will make an effort to watch it. I saw the reviews, and I know sort of a little bit, but I've tried to keep away from spoilers, so I've avoided all that stuff, shockingly. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit hard to avoid it, but I have avoided it. So I will try to watch that, and then we can discuss it a little bit more. But you recommend it other than the uncomfortable pauses that you felt like you need to put in.
Yeah, I in a way that's like a
good thing.
Complimenting it. Yeah, I'm saying that this was really tough, and I think that movies that are evocative that way, that aren't like torture porn, it's not that.
Okay, because you know how I feel about that.
Yeah,
I
that's
just can't.
Not entertaining. It's you don't want to watch it because it's disgusting. It's not
Right.
that it's like, I don't know, interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'd say go for it. I think it's good.
Okay, I'll do it.
So. True Detective season 3 is coming up. You despised season 2.
Yes, I did.
I quite enjoyed it. I thought about watching it a second time, and when I started up the first episode, I totally bailed. So maybe that says that I only enjoyed it to a point. I was unable to engage watching season 2 the second time, but I have like fond memories of it. Like there's some insane action scenes. There's it's kind of set. There's one of the settings in that season is quite close to where I live. The town of Guerneville is mentioned a lot as like this place where where cults are.
Yep.
So it's a little bit sketchy. And actually,
is that real life, or is that something that they made up?
I mean, it's not. It's fairly close to real life. I think in the '60s there were a lot of hippies. Like Charles Manson wasn't in Sonoma County as far as I know, but he was around the North Bay. And a lot of hippies ended up in Sonoma County. And, with hippies also came some extreme fringe behavior. So, and also Bird Box is also set in the North Bay. They talk about going to Santa Rosa at one point in the film, which is 15 miles away from where I live. So I thought that was it's just cool to hear shout outs about where you live. I mean, in New York, you're like, yeah, it's like every Spider-Man movie or whatever, but it's not so much.
Actually, today there's a film shooting up in our neighborhood, and I don't know if something's going on where they're getting like tax breaks, or it's just because the neighborhood looks a certain way. Because there's definitely like a few streets that have been used because they look basically like what they did when they were built. Like some of the brownstones still have like. There's a few streets that have basically the gas lines going up, and so you see the little lampposts that all still have the gas going, and they just go all day. Mm-hmm. So I think that they target it because of that, because of the look of the neighborhood, and there's restaurants and there's things like that. But there's some like mafia film, I think, called The Kitchen, with Melissa McCarthy filming today up there. So it's fun when you see your neighborhood in these things. So I don't know. There's definitely a lot of series that also film around here. The Americans, like almost all around my neighborhood. So
that's cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's never that, down to like my neighborhood, but it's just cool to see my area featured in some stuff. So I don't know, the new season of True Detective is actually going to be set in Arkansas, so nowhere near either of us. and is going to feature Mahershala Ali, who is an amazing actor, best known, I would say, for Luke Cage.
Yep.
Season 1. I don't know. Maybe he's best known for other better things, but that's what I think
that's
of.
mainly what I think of him. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was fantastic in that. And
I was so bummed out when Luke Cage was canceled. So bummed out.
Dude, it's just been I guess apparently Disney is hinting already at reviving some of these shows or in some fashion. But yeah, we've already covered that. But yeah, that was just heartbreaking. A heartbreaking several weeks.
But I will give the new True Detective a chance because it is like every season is supposed to be like a new director and a new storyline, and I'm okay with that. I just thought that the season 2 lost its way, and I was excited to watch it, and then I kept feeling like there was going to be more to it, and I just didn't get into it at all. I don't know that I even finished watching it because I was just so kind of turned off by it. So, but I'll give season 3 a chance. I will. I am very excited about the other news that we're going to talk about.
Just one last thing on True Detective is they did it's been like a year or two since season 2, right? So it makes me think that it's the same showrunner, Nick Pizzolatto. I think they've really, hopefully, they've taken the time to be like, all right, what did we succeed at in season 1? How can we like strike lightning twice? So I'm hoping that with that lead actor that they've got a real winning recipe right there. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, also coming up, and I'm pretty damn excited about this. I just rewatched the first season with John Bernthal's Punisher on Netflix.
It's pretty good.
When all that news of shows getting canceled was coming out, I was just like, oh man. And so this Punisher is going to get canceled as soon as this season's over. Like you know that's coming, and it's going to sting. But I think we have to hold out hope that
the ensemble cast idea is something that they might do. Yeah,
something. So yeah, Punisher season 2.
I did enjoy the first season quite a bit. So I am excited to see what they do with this season. And I love him. I thought he did a great job in this role. So I'm excited to see what he does for round 2. So that's cool.
Yeah, and then finally, this is like a personal note. The real reason, there were several reasons why we missed a week last week over Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's, I think, and missed a week for putting the podcast out. Part of it was hashtag parent life. Like my daughter decided to wake up at 4:30 every day since Christmas, and that's just only just ended this week. So
knock on wood, my friend.
Knock on wood. Oh no, all these phases are very fluid. My brain was just not okay, and so I was sitting in my house playing Red Dead Redemption. I'd been up for several hours when podcast time came and went. I was just like brain dead. And so Red Dead Redemption is the sequel to Red Dead Redemption. Sorry, Red Dead Redemption 2 is the sequel to Red Dead Redemption that came out, I think, in like 2012 or maybe even earlier than that. Came out a while back. And it's a Western. And I've just recently finished Red Dead Redemption 2. I think I played it for 6,000 minutes, whatever that equates to.
What is your review? Did you like it? Clearly.
Well, I don't finish a lot of these really long games. So yeah, I really enjoyed the story, the setting. It's really depressing. The story is very sad, but it's really engaging. So I really enjoyed that. And there have been rumors of a zombie mod or DLC coming for that game. So that'll be pretty cool. And when that happens, I'll give it another shout out. But Red Dead Redemption 2 is a fantastic game. And I really worked on my hunting and skinning of animals a lot to the extent that I'd walk around in this game looking like a bison, effectively just covered in furs.
Sweet.
Yeah. And I never shaved or cut my hair. This is just a cool game where if you don't cut your hair or shave, your beard just grows forever.
Basically like real life, huh?
Just like real life, AJ. You've seen me.
All right. So, are you ready to talk about what we've been avoiding talking about? What we've been procrastinating talking about?
Here comes.
All right. So we're going to hop into it. And so we ended up watching 3 episodes of season 8 for this week. So it's episodes 11, 12, and 13, and then we're going to wrap up everything next week in basically because we just need to get through this season, and we're both having PTSD watching this again. And these 3 episodes are no exception to my feelings about this season. It was, to me, I don't know how you felt, Stuart, but I was just slogging through these and just really, I just had a hard time.
You know what's interesting is these all have a fairly decent Rotten Tomatoes score. So the critics, looking at them one at a time, I think, are like, yeah, this is fine. But when you take these as a whole, as a season, that's where you're like, you feel like you're getting beaten up every time you have to watch another one.
Yep. So yeah. We've got so we'll talk about these, and then we'll get through the next 3, and then we're on to season 9, which I have not yet watched. So but
we're not going to go directly into a review of season 9. We've got Kingdom and The Passage.
Yep, we got a few things. We got a few things going on. And one thing we forgot to talk about last week in terms of news is Zombieland 2 coming out eventually, hopefully, in 2019.
That's right, because I was bemoaning the lack of good titles. Yeah, Zombieland 2 is something to look forward to. Absolutely, you're right.
But let's just get it over with. Let's just pull off the Band-Aid.
Written by Eddie Guzelian, directed by Michael Satrazemis. This is Season 8, Episode 11, Dead or Alive or. This is an episode of many storylines, or at least 3 or 4. The primary one is the Alexandrians making their way to the hilltop.
Yep.
This is a journey that I feel like we've seen people do many times on this show, and it never seemed to be difficult.
No, and suddenly it's difficult. Very difficult.
Part of why it's difficult is there are people out looking for them, and so they can't go maybe their usual routes. But again, we've talked about how depleted the numbers of the saviors have to be, and yet clearly aren't. Every time they get shot, there's like somehow another busload of extras that they can just pull in. So they end up having to go through the swamp, and that's kind of the main drama, I guess, of this episode is the swamp, and also the Dr. Carson and Gabriel
stuff.
Escapades.
Well, and also remember the whole tainted weapons issue.
The idea for the tainted weapons is introduced in this episode, but not executed until the next one.
Later. But then there's also the ongoing sort of drama about Dwight, and between Tara and Dwight and Daryl, and I just find this to be an extraordinarily tired and stupid issue.
Tara straight up tries to murder someone in cold blood in this episode, which you cannot do that to a character without serious consequences as far as how they like Tara to be on this show, unless they're planning on making Tara some other kind of character.
Right. And that's, I think that's part of the first time I had an issue with it. This time I had even more of an issue with it. This is one of my biggest critiques of this show. It's like, if you're going to have somebody completely change the way that they're thinking, and completely change their MO, you need to have some true character building or show the path, and they don't do that, in my opinion. And it's suddenly just and I also just don't believe that Tara would sacrifice the safety of the group that they're trying to get to the hilltop because of her vengeance.
Yeah,
and I just don't believe that, because I think she's very smart. She has shown multiple times that she kind of gets the big picture, and then I just don't buy this particular crisis that she seems to be going through, and her focus on this. I just don't buy that she would trade her group's safety, especially when they've got Judith, Rick's daughter, in the group, and especially because of what just happened with Carl. I don't this just seemed so strange to me. I don't know if you felt the same way. But
in this trio of episodes, there is a real problem with a lack of vigilance in any of these herd mentality settings. Like in this case, it's the Alexandrians sitting by the side of the swamp, just slumped there. Maybe they're tired. But why is nobody? They don't. At least they're not showing us anybody keeping like a 360
watch,
degree
yeah.
sense of their surroundings. It's almost like Tara is the only person who's on guard, and then she very transparently throws a knife to Dwight in order to take him off and shoot him.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody really reacts to that. I don't know why. I thought Rosita was clearing the swamp. I don't know how she ended up back with Tara.
Yeah, I don't either. And also the other thing I would point, like before that even happened, there was the whole, your point about vigilance. Well, there was some walker that came upon them, and rather than kill him immediately, which she could have done, she like throws him to Dwight to try to like,
Yeah.
basically, I mean, I think she wants Dwight to get bitten, but the problem is that we just saw that Carl died because of a random bite from a walker.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is no safe way to do what she did without endangering other people. And like, not just Dwight. And again, I don't buy that she would do this. I think she would just take care of business. And so that was just, I don't know. Once again angered me.
We have Rosita as the only voice of reason, which is refreshing, I guess, because I was tired of her just being like the angry lady. And now she's like, hey, we just lost the kid. Let's not do this. And then later, also like backing up Tara as her, I don't know, silent witness to the stuff that goes down with Dwight and his reuniting with the Saviors.
What I feel about this is that we could have just had them walking through the gates at Hilltop and not missed anything if they had just cut out that whole section.
Yeah.
The only thing obviously that happens within that group is that, you know, there's the back and forth between Dwight and Tara and Daryl and Tara and Rosita and Tara, and then ultimately her attempt at vengeance backfires because, you know, when she's like chasing him through the woods, they come upon a group of the Saviors, and he basically saves her life, or, you know, to the extent.
The whole group's lives. Like...
Yeah. He misdirects them. He joins the Saviors and kind of plays dumb and starts to walk them back away from the Alexandrians. And so, I mean, I don't... Did you feel like the journey for them to get there, it just felt long to me? I know, probably not.
It's
like...
How long ago did they leave Alexandria with Rick and Michonne there to watch Carl die and then bury him? It seems to take them, it's like an episode and a half.
Right. And I was like, are they just trying to show more Tara time? It just felt like wasted screen time overall.
Yeah.
And then of course we did see the swamp zombies, which were, you know, you can see, I don't know that anybody would make it through a swamp like this, just because it would be so hard to avoid the walkers that are in there.
Yeah, what's to say that they have to come above the water to attack you either?
They don't. And so that's kind of the I don't know that this would have been that any of them would have made it through there, at least anybody who was walking through, because, I mean, I guess the kid, if you're carrying them, maybe. But I could tell that they had a really fun time doing the makeup for all of them, and they did look good.
Putting some mushrooms and some ivy on some zombies.
Yeah.
This is
slime.
Just good times for the effects crew. Mm-hmm. But like you said, the whole foray into the swamp is really just to give. I think it's really just to give Dwight an opportunity to have to escape. Otherwise, they could have just shown up at the hilltop without needing to do all of that, and they could have had all these conversations in a different setting if they even needed to. But I mean, you do also have Tara do a 180 here eventually and say, oh, he could have given us up. I trust him now. She does it's such an abrupt and 100, like such a big 180 that it's kind of like
yeah.
But she does it. So also we have Gabriel and Carson finding the home of a ham radio operator, and Gabriel is being really preachy.
Yes, and also blind. Or, you know, he's how they explain this is that the infection has reached his eyes, and Dr. Carson is like worried about him, and Gabriel is very much convinced that he doesn't matter because he's following the word of God or the path of God, whatever path God is showing to him. And, you know, they kind of go out of their way to make sure that you see all these things that he's trying to connect into this pattern. So there's so many things about this where it's like, wouldn't Dr. Carson have seen some of this stuff? Like,
the bear traps?
Because he can see. So
Yeah.
he could see the sign that's
He's
banging around that Gabriel eventually sees. So I just kind of feel like that was weird. This is the whole this is a very Gabriel episode, and I don't know. What did you feel about it? Like the path that they chose for him here.
I
I
felt
think
like it was
it's
a waste of the Dr. Carson character. I don't know why they
agreed.
hate doctors so much on this
They
show.
really
We
do.
get to see a few doctors die in in these 3 episodes.
Hmm.
It's really annoying, and it makes me worry about Sadiq and his longevity on the show.
Hmm.
But yeah, they hate doctors because
Hmm.
they're clearly so valuable and they represent knowledge, and this show hates knowledge and moral superiority.
Oh, and we do see. I mean, we see the whole Savior's plan, and they're doing a lot of the scenes where they're putting weapons into Walker blood. Especially Negan really shows the Lucille stuff, like the guts and stuff,
Yeah.
and then we of course see like where Eugene is installed by Negan into like basically a little warehouse to make his bullets, and he's got his ladies there to take care of him and make lunch, and seems to be you know kind of taking care of business on that level. And Gabriel is basically brought back to him,
Yeah.
and reconnects with Eugene, and his job is to just, I don't know, sort bullets or something. It's
Yeah,
just,
sort casings. That is in the next episode, but it doesn't matter. It all runs together. It's basically just a couple of short storylines that they drag out. And that's really what a lot of this feels like at this point. Is like when we think about the events of this episode of this season, they
right.
surrounded the sanctuary. They let the saviors out of the sanctuary. The garbage people were all murdered, and now the
Hmm.
sanctuary is counterattacking again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of all that's happened in this season. It's like 4 big things, and we're
Hmm.
on episode 12, and it's absurd that it's taken this long.
Yeah.
We could be on episode 8. I feel like
Right. Right.
2 episodes per big thing. Even
Hmm.
that's excessive. Dwight is back with the Saviors. He has returned to the sanctuary. There isn't much of a like homecoming scene. Is there a homecoming scene between him and Negan? I don't think there is. A little bit.
I mean, there's a little bit of a glad you're back and let's get business going,
And
and
Negan's kind of acting a little squirrely around him, right? A little bit like,
yep. Yep. And so is Simon.
yeah.
So
Well,
that's
turns out Simon's acting weird around him for a different reason, and yeah, and that kind of gets more played out in this episode because they share a truck, and Simon tries to recruit Dwight to be this coup faction.
right.
Effectively, they're not going to really outright topple Negan, although maybe they would have, but they certainly take advantage of a situation in this episode when Rick goes off script and
Yep.
tries to take out Negan too.
Yep. But before we get to that, one of the sort of departures from all this Savior Hilltop Alexandrian drama is the whole thing with Maggie and Enid and Michonne and the weird message from some mysterious source
Yeah.
that they decide to check out. And this is like, this whole weird, it's what you would expect. It's the whole morality versus, how are you going to be like the saviors, or are you going to like have some kind of moral, are you going to take a moral high ground? That is something it was a little bit weird and stood out, but I could only think that they did this to break up some of this sort of tedium. So
Yeah. Introducing a new faction is always interesting. This faction never gets fleshed out at all. The
nope.
only interesting thing about them is that they have this information to trade, and that they appear to be completely unsuited for survival. I mean, they have guns. They're
But it
not
makes you
complete.
wonder. It makes you wonder how they have survived at all.
And this is
So
what Enid brings up, and she makes kind of a good point, but it's also the point that that leads to down the dark path. And Michonne has to really basically threaten Enid. I mean, Enid walks into the room with a gun in her hand, and
yep.
that's a pretty interesting scene, frankly. And I think that the girl who plays Enid, Caitlin Nakin, does a really good job in these 2 episodes. The one we just talked about, when she learns that Carl is dead, she has an amazing reaction scene to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like crying right along with her. And then this is like her angry episode. And she does a great job with that too. And it's interesting how Enid has basically become a member of the group, even though I guess she's about Carl's age, so that's not that surprising.
But she was a little bit of an outsider. I mean, we saw her with the wolves, and she has a bit of a self-survival instinct, and she's not usually one to join.
She has moved away from that, yeah.
Yeah, so we see that. Also, basically, all the people that are sort of the leadership are, Maggie, Enid, Michonne, Rosita. Like, they are the ones going to basically deal with people. Then Georgie, who is the woman who they're meeting, is traveling with women. So that's an interesting thing that they decide to do.
Although it's a big lady interaction, isn't it?
Yep. And ultimately, they make the decision that they will give them records or whatever the heck Georgie is looking for. And Georgie gives them these plans for, like windmills and things to help basically civilization move forward in a way that they have, they don't have access to these things. And it's basically a hopeful sort of peace, I guess. Even though they're still dealing with the saviors and things like this. And they get this even though they have talked about taking all of Georgie's food and things like that, but Georgie freely gives them a lot of food when she realizes that they're starving because they have made the right decision. So there's that weird interlude. And then we've got the unending pursuit of Negan between Rick with Rick.
Yeah, how did they not find each other in that basement for as long as that goes on?
I don't know. It's because it's not like a huge building.
I mean, how big could it have been? It is part of it is cool. Like it's like when De Niro. It's not at all like this, but it's like when De Niro and Pacino meet in Heat. They're like the prey and the predator coming face to face. It's always good, and this is one of the first times that Rick seems to have had the upper hand. Except that at the very beginning of the season when he could have shot Negan right off the bat and preempted all of this. But yeah, so there's an interesting series of scenes between Rick and Negan. It could have been about a tenth as long and been just as effective. And then Negan escapes and gets rolled up by Jadis of all weird coincidences. What was she just happening to be in the neighborhood?
Yeah.
Whatever.
But I mean, we've got a ton of like weird zombie like battle scenes in that basement. It's all very confusing.
The zombies are so ineffective. Like they're so an afterthought for these two guys.
Right.
I guess they want us to make us think that Rick and Negan are so adapted to this environment that they don't even worry. They're not even concerned about zombies. They just kind of like shove them out of the way and focus on each other.
Yep.
It's like an extreme version of what we've seen on this show in the past, but it's pretty crazy that they're they're so willing to just sideline the zombie.
And as you had mentioned before, Simon takes advantage of the fact that Negan is gone missing. He and Dwight have this long scene in front of Negan's car. And it's interesting because Dwight doesn't ever actually answer Simon in terms of what Simon is proposing. He just lights the car on fire, which Simon takes to be the answer. And then when they go back to talk to the rest of the saviors, they're like, I am Negan, you are Negan. And they kind of are trying. I mean, it's a power play.
It's a subtle one almost.
It's subtle. And they do have, they can technically be undercover. Like if Negan pops up, they can be like, oh, we thought you were dead. They have a little bit of cover there, which is probably why Dwight did the whole thing with the flamey thing. But you can tell Dwight is definitely playing this pretty. He's being very careful.
And part of why he goes along with Simon is because he thinks that Simon is proposing leaving. But then what he doesn't understand is when Simon lays out his plans, before they leave, they're going to murder everybody at Hilltop.
Everybody.
And so there's a funny reaction face scene of Austin Amelio's face as Dwight when he's like, he goes a little bit wide-eyed when he realizes that he's aiding Simon, who is a complete psycho. Mm-hmm. That's that. Yep. That's that for that episode. Things are happening. You're definitely getting the sense that the saviors are on the ropes, but they're still in a convoy and probably still outnumber the good guys somehow, some unbelievable way. How, I don't know. understand that. But and that takes us to the last of the three that we're reviewing today. Do Not Send Us Astray. This is an Angela Kang, Matthew Negrete episode written by them and directed by Jeffrey January. What was the key? That was Corey Reed, Channing Powell, and directed by Nicotero. Curious. Usually he goes for the real, the effects-laden ones. Maybe the basement zombies was part of his thing. But Do Not Lead Us Astray is effectively the big fight, the attack on Hilltop, and its after effects. And yeah, that's that. It's mostly that. So this, I have some serious problems with parts of this episode. We also have Morgan increasingly becoming unhinged. Like he's starting to hallucinate, which is great. It's, when you
then there's the Henry element of this, which is just really ridiculous.
So, okay, how do we, let's attack this chronologically. The Saviors arrive. The Hilltop is ready for them. They have a strategy. We don't know what it is exactly. The Saviors are going to try and kill all of them, but they have not re-equipped themselves. They still have their zombie-tainted weapons. I guess they're low on ammo because only a couple of them have guns. But their plan is to break open the doors to the Hilltop and kill everybody inside.
Yep.
However, the Hilltop has a plan, which includes a team of people outside, which is only like 4 or 5. I don't remember most of their names except for Daryl and Rick. And then there's a handful of others who we recognize but don't know their names. Correct. And then there's a bunch of people inside. And she has all the survivors from Alexandria as well as her own people. And Carol is there. But not Ezekiel.
Not Ezekiel.
Like the Kingdom people are kind of weirdly absent from all the storyline, aren't they?
Yep. Except
for Henry and Carol, who for whatever reason, I don't remember why they're at the Hilltop, but they are. Yep. So this attack, we just watch Saviors getting mown down. First by Daryl in a very effective motorcycle machine gunning scene. Yep. He kills like 6 people and then drives through the gates. And the Saviors come through the gates and get mown down even more. Yep. The fight kind of breaks down. Then there's a scene where Dwight is trying to kill Tara, or sorry, not Dwight. Simon's trying to kill Tara.
Yeah. And Dwight saves her by doing like a non-fatal thing.
But yeah, this is like, yeah, okay. It's chaotic. There's a lot of people being shot, mostly Saviors. You do see a few people getting taken down, including Tobin, who's been a fairly regular minor character on the show since season 5.
Yep.
And so we know that anybody who is taking a wound is going to be in for some bad mojo. I mean, that part of this episode is hard-hitting-ish. It sucks. Especially when it's some characters that we know about. And they try to develop some other extras just before they
die.
Which is a little bit cheap. It's like, we don't want to kill any of our actual cast. So let's just give some people some lines.
We're going to give people a few lines to make you sort of care about them, and then we'll just get rid of them. It's okay.
Like Dr. Dana and a couple of other soldiers. Like, Dr. Dana's great, man. She's done a great job. That guy's dead, and Dr. Dana's dead by the end of this episode. When the lights get, like, the second wave of the defense, when they turn off the lights and they shoot all the lights. Actually, Ezekiel is there because he's shooting out truck lights. I don't know why he's there too.
He's there, but he's not like, I wouldn't say
he has a really small part in this.
Right.
Like, there's just one scene of him shooting. I remember that scene, and I was like, all of Maggie's plans involve so much expending so much ammunition.
Yep.
It's crazy. So they are all shooting all the time on full auto, as we know. But then they do that like lights off thing, and the Saviors, like a bunch of idiots, cluster up and start to tiptoe towards the main building.
So that's the problem I have with it, is that they're not this dumb, and they've stayed around this long. Tactically, we've never seen them make. Well, I mean, they always make mistakes like this when the writers want them to make mistakes like this.
Like the Kingdom managed to mow down a whole bunch of them for doing something not unlike
Right,
this.
unlike this, right? And so, like, but the fact is, they're going into this building. They know that there's a ton of them in there. They know that they have ammunition. So, not quite sure why they decide to go in full, like, basically no cover whatsoever.
No cover and all clustered together. And if we're playing by the same rules as when the Kingdom army was basically completely killed, they should all be dead.
Right.
And yet we see 2 truckloads of these guys drive away at the end of this episode. Even after the scene where everybody opens fire again. Yes, more of them are killed, but so many of them run away. And then there's more of, like, Rick and his couple of buddies are hanging out by the front door waiting to kill more of them and to do a pretty piss poor job because Rick only has 1 magazine left, and he is, between this episode and the last one, the way he was shooting his AK at Negan was so frustrating, where he wastes 2 magazines. He wastes 60 rounds on nothing, on like shooting the car and a door frame. He is so annoying about the way that he uses ammunition, which is so valuable that it makes
all
me
of them
crazy.
are, though. All of them are.
Yeah.
So they're and that's the thing, is that we know how valuable it is because they wouldn't have Eugene making bullets otherwise. So that's like how annoying this whole.
It's very frustrating. So a lot of them get to escape. Rick
but one of my most the things in this whole thing is the Henry kid.
So that comes after the attack is over. So yeah, once that happens, we have some scenes of people getting medical attention. Some of the extras get some lines right before we know they're all going to die. Everybody lies down inside the big house on the floor.
Okay, I have an issue with this though, because look, you have a large group of people that have been living in this particular world for a significant amount of time. So even taking away, I mean, they don't know about the Walker blood tainted weapons, but they also do know that even people who die without bites reanimate. Yeah. So I just find it highly unlikely that if they're in a scenario where you have people injured and not insignificant injuries, that they're going to let them lie down in a group of people. Yeah. And also that the medical van or the medical trailer or whatever it is wouldn't have some guard there, some safeguard just in case, especially when these are these are the people that are the most horribly injured.
The general vigilance is again the problem here. It just was with the swamp scene with the Alexandrians.
Exactly. Like, I just don't think that this group would be that stupid. And I think that these would just be normal processes that you would put in place. Okay, so we've got the trailer full of people. These are the people that are most injured. We got to keep an eye on them. Somebody always has to keep an eye just in case. Like, you're not going to just sort of leave people hanging out there.
I mean, even that aside, they just had an attack from the Saviors. They saw 2 truckloads of them drive away. They were like, we don't have to post guards everywhere. We just had a huge battle. Of course they need to post guards. Right. And the zombies are making so much noise. One of them falls down all the stairs in the main hallway of the big house.
I know, and nobody's going to wake up.
It's an old house. It's just wood. It's not like these are concrete carpeted stairs. You know how loud, I mean, if I were to fall down the stairs in my house, it would wake up everybody 2 houses away. Like, it makes so much noise.
And aside from that, don't you think that everybody is tuned in to that particular noise, the Walker noise?
Yeah.
The noise that they are making, wouldn't you be like lightning quick just to get there? I don't know. I just found that
it's crazy to me how they sleep through all of this. Yes. Yeah. And it made me very angry at this show for being like, yeah, these people have survived the zombie apocalypse for 2 years, but now they sleep through zombies because they're so tired. Mm-hmm. But yeah, but they lose, I don't know, a dozen people because of the second wave of this attack. It's extremely wasteful, but it's almost all people we don't care about except for Tobin, and we only kind of quarter care about him because Carol already broke up with him. Mm-hmm. Way to go, Carol. Way to cut bait.
Cut that off, yeah.
Although she did kind of also then tell him, in the show, man, it's so funny. She goes and has her first conversation with him in a season, just to let us think that maybe there's a chance for them to
you knew that was his death warrant, though. Come
rekindle. On. I mean, we already knew he was dead as soon as he got sliced up.
Right.
So super dumb. Nobody's on guard. Maybe there's one person on the walls that you see get shot later. Apparently he was also wounded. but they have like no guards. Only Dr. Dana's wandering around, but also walks into a trailer that has blood all over the stairs. Like, where is your sense of self-preservation or
Right.
anything?
And again, she's the one that would be the most in tune to this. She's seen it before. It's not like she hasn't. Like, she's been living in this world a while. Wouldn't you, like, sort of be on guard for the signs?
And Tobin is a remarkably spry zombie.
He is quite spry.
He jumps out of bed and kills that one guy, and then is silently hiding around a corner waiting for Dr. Dana to come into the medical trailer. But enough about that idiocy. Let's talk about this other idiocy with Henry, who finds an M16 after the gunfight and secrets it away, and then later that night decides to be a super dumb kid, and not only starts questioning the enclosure of saviors, but then opens the door because it's a fence that he could shoot through, but he's like, I'm gonna go in there.
Yeah, and also let's just like nobody's gonna be watching this pen, given that that the saviors have attacked, that some got away, that people are already worried about this group of people, and Maggie has said multiple times that she's gonna have people looking, like, be on guard and be on watch here, like multiple times, and apparently not tonight.
It's just. So we have more scenes of the good savior, whose name is Alden, who I've now memorized his name. They call him Al, but he's Alden.
Yep.
And he's an Australian actor, actually. Callan McAuliffe, which is a very fun
and
name
a lot of what he says is, "You don't want to do this. I'm not with them.
It's not going to make you feel better." We have some more great scenes of Gregory also saying things like that. And then, as one expects, the chaos breaks out. The really, really evil savior
Gets out.
Jared is like, that's music to my ears, and then takes the gun from Henry and is like, doors open, boys, let's go. And then they all run away. Not all of them run away. Alden and 2 or 3 other of the good saviors stay and try to close the doors to the hilltop after the zombies are all arriving. And I guess, Maggie's like, what are you doing out of here? And I don't know. I really hated all these episodes.
Me too. But luckily we're through now. We're through. So we're done. We only have 3 left of this season. But I mean, my overall issue is the same it's always been, which is that the storytelling got very sloppy, the character development just conflicting all over the place. And just the common sense of surviving in this zombie apocalypse to me does not match with what we know about these groups, and I found that to be extraordinarily frustrating. I mean, and I do think that there were ways that they could have figured out how to do this without doing what they did, that make a lot more sense. So to me, this is just sloppy storytelling.
Are you talking primarily about which parts?
The injured people zombie uprising is the thing that bothered me probably the most.
But as a tactic in this universe, I mean, they're using the rules that they've established, and so part of me can appreciate that.
I appreciate it, but I think that there were ways to sort of have this unravel, have the hilltop unravel in this way that wasn't so stupid. Because that's the thing. It's like, for this minute, we're supposed to think that all these people are super stupid yet have survived, and that just is a contradictory. Yeah. It's just a contradictory way of telling a story. And the Henry thing also really, really bothers me. I get that the kid's out for revenge. I don't think that he would have opened up the fence.
Yeah, the problem here is not that a kid like Henry would do that. That is acceptable, understandable, almost.
Correct.
But what is not what is really hard to swallow for us is that the Hilltop haven't got guards who would have closed the loop on all of these so-called threats right away. They should have had 2 people at the enclosure, 2 people at the gate, 2 people on the balcony outside the main house, and people would not have slept through the incursion by the zombies, and so on and so on and so on. It's because they conveniently let the grown-ups, the people, the adapted survivors fall down on the job when it suits them, is why this feels extremely frustrating. And
Well, and I think we are supposed to assume that everybody is so depleted and exhausted after this battle that this is why they fall down on the job, but they never say that explicitly. You're just, I think, I think you're supposed to draw that conclusion, but it's still a conclusion that in this world, this is not a mistake they would make. No matter how tired people are, they know that their only way to survive is to still do all the things that they normally do, to be on guard against walkers and against the saviors and all of that kind of thing. So, anyway, I am happy to be done with these 3. At least we are through with them. That is the positive thing I can say.
3 more to go, and then
3
we
more to
can
go.
put 8 behind us. And the saviors, we can't even put the saviors storyline behind us.
No, we cannot.
It keeps going. So join us next time when we close the loop on season 8 with Still Gotta Mean Something, Worth, and Wrath. And that's going to be the end of our recap of season 8 of The Walking Dead. And thank you for sticking with us through this. I know it's painful, but I don't know what it is. It's like we don't even have a spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down. A spoonful of sugar is that we get to watch Kingdom in a couple weeks.
That is true. And maybe I will try to catch Bird Box and start my sojourn into season 9.
Yeah, you got a lot of work cut out for you.
I know, but it's good. These are positive things to look forward to after I get rid of these last 3 episodes. So I'll work my way through it and then reward myself with Bird Box.
Well, I think everybody knows how to get a hold of us. Let's not draw it out any longer, and we will catch you all next time on Reanimated for 195.
Woo! Ciao.
Right. Bye.